In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. I'd like to share something that I thought was well put by Chris Jackson in an article that he put out a day or two ago. And also just a short reflection on the saint of today, St. Gorgonius and his companions, actually. So just a little parallel, something we should be aware of, because there's a lot of traditional people that are deceived right now. Right? We need to understand what is truly the counter-revolution of where we need to be right now in this place where there's a lot of confusion. Before, well, originally with the SSPX, they had it right. They had the right. They understood very deeply, long before we did. Right? They held to the truth not only of the Latin Mass and the liturgy. Obviously, they fought for that, but most especially, even more than the liturgy. It was what the liturgy is representing what we believe. So it is a doctrinal battle. What is the error is a theology, is a new ecclesiology, which is devastating, which is filled with errors, which does not transmit the faith. In fact, it transmits something that is other than the Catholic faith. It's not properly Catholic. And so, of course, the Novus Ordo liturgy embodies that whole belief. It is the baby of modernism, right? So nowadays, you're called a traditional if you like the Latin Mass, if you support the Latin Mass. Maybe you think it's good. You might attend one every once in a while. You think it's a good thing in the church, right? It's a preference that we should be able to have without it being criminal. This is Summorum Pontificum. Okay, there's both of them. There's a place for it. You don't have to do it. Things that were good before, they're still good now. But there's this harmony, a harmonizing of the hermeneutic, right? Of continuity, a harmonizing of both of them. This is Cardinal Burke, right? This is the Cardinal Burke. So these are the best that we have, basically, that are not canceled. This is I would say the majority, and unfortunately, you got the SSPX moving fast in that direction, right? You see it with even the pioneers of it, which is sad, right? The Michael Mass that have been fighting it long before myself, and so these are heroic people that kept the faith when nobody even hardly understood. When we've actually made more progress in a sense over the years. That there's been momentum and there's been good things that have happened. But now you see them just saying, "Hey, we're fighting for the Latin Mass, but in a way they're good with Vatican II." And I see that watching them speak. Okay, and one way they'll condemn the errors of Vatican II, but there is something of them accepting this. So here we need to be aware of this very much. Because what the Vatican is doing is they're playing on this right now. And so you're able to see Leo is letting in the LGBTQ thing, which was absolute horror. Absolute. One of the worst, most blatant things that has happened in really in a long time. So the SSPX gets to march in, kind of it's accepted, it's kind of on the calendar, kind of not real super formal. And then the LGBTQ people get to do that too. I would say the LGBTQ thing was more blessed because they had the vicar, the vicar of the conference of Italian bishops pray the Mass, in that it was very, very formal in one way. So both of them are fine. Both of them are good. Right now, SPX, fine with that. It seems, maybe not all of them, right? Maybe not, I'm sure there's a lot of priests that are in the SSPX that are saying, we don't support that. But at least the leadership, they're moving in that direction. Give us the side chapel in the Conciliar, monstrosity, right? There's this big dome, everything is permitted there, all religions are acceptable, LGBTQ is fine, it's blessed, and then you got the Michael Matts, right now, that have fallen. They've fallen because there's some deal. And it's like the Cardinal Burkes and the Schneiders. Someone is influencing them, saying, look, Leo's actually good, he's going to help us out, he's inherited a terrible thing from Francis. That's right now what they're swallowing down, as if Leo is not part of it. But he is 100% believing the synodal path. I mean, he has so clearly said that he is for 100% that whole trajectory set forward by Francis. There is no question about that. And so, right now, they're very deeply compromised. I hope that they will wake back up to that, right? So here's what he says. James Martin has now had his private audience with Leo. The Vatican rolled out the Swiss Guard for him. Can you believe that? Rolled out the Swiss Guard for James Martin. An absolute heretic, blatant. As if he were a dignitary and not a dissenter. He gushed afterward about Leo's calm, his humor, his inner freedom. That's what he praised about Leo. His calm, his humor, his inner freedom. Very modernist things. All cliches of modern Jesuit spirituality. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. That somehow end with the same 5-point plan for parishes to embrace sodomy as a baptized charism. Martin slipped his proposals directly into Leo's hands. Recognition, welcome, advocacy, full parish integration. No repentance, no conversion, no amendment of life. None of that. These are people holding hands with their gay, quote unquote, spouse. These are people that are living the sacrilegious marriage. It's not a marriage. They're living that lifestyle. They say F the rules, right? This is the type of stuff. They're taking pictures in there of themselves. They got their flag-colored crucifixes. They're setting this stuff up on the altars, right? And there's 1,000 or maybe thousands of these activists that have just filled this place. And they're receiving blessings and mass for their intention to bless and sanctify sodomy. And he's meeting with Leo. You can't say that Leo doesn't support it. You can't say it. Because he met with the leader of the thing, of Jonathan's tent. A blasphemous reference to Jonathan and David, saying that they were gay and therefore it's a biblical thing. Okay, so there was absolutely no will to be chaste in these people. They were bragging that 25 years ago they were detained as a kind of threat to the Jubilee celebrations. We can't have all these people walking in here because this is even 25 years ago, they recognized that as, you know, this is activists that are coming in. This is not good. This is too much. We can't get away with this here. But now they're very proud, saying, look how much progress we've made in 25 years. Skip ahead another 25 years. What do you got? The incremental. And by the way, the Catholic Church cannot err in these things. It's impossible. That is the belief that we hold. Neither can a sovereign pontiff. And it's not just, only when he's on the chair. Only if he, speaks ex cathedra. That's the only time. False. I used to think that. A sovereign pontiff cannot err in faith and morals while leading the entirety of the Catholic Church. He cannot scandalize the entire Catholic world and lead them into a different faith or lead them off in morals. It's impossible. It is possible for the man to commit sin. Okay, that's happened before. bad ones. But he cannot lead the entirety of the Catholic Church into moral deviation or faith. So either we ought to abandon our faith because it was all wrong and the church is not indefectible, or it's not the Catholic Church doing these things. It's one or the other option. That's why we say that there is a false church. And this is exactly what Anne Catherine talked about, actually. And Archbishop Vigano just put out something reminding us of her vision. And it is spot on. It talks about exactly where we are at today. And she did this in 1820. I'm going to read it on the Sunday Mass. The head of the church gave his blessing to Martin's outreach. Meanwhile, the same weekend, rainbow pilgrims processed through the holy door of St. Peter's Basilica itself, complete with crucifix carried by a man and his husband. The papal calendar listed the event alongside official Jubilee celebrations. Martin presided at Jesuit Church Gesù with the deputy president of the Italian Bishops' Conference, and Trad Inc. They're calling Trad Inc. That's the name for it's Trad traditional incorporated into the Conciliar monster, the Conciliar horror of Babylon. That's what it is. And they just, oh, please, just give us a place in this. Just give us that side altar down there with everyone else. Right now, Trad Incorporated, this would say, is the mainstream. Now you got a mainstream traditionalist. Mainstream. Led by Burke. Cardinal Burke is being permitted to say a TLM in St. Peter's. And everyone's just, giddy about it. As if that balances the scales. Okay, things are going great. We're back. We got to we're celebrating TLM in here. And, meanwhile, James Martin's processing in through. The Summorum Pontificum pilgrimage is being allowed back into St. Peter's this October. Cardinal Burke will celebrate a pontifical high mass at the altar of the chair. For many, this is proof that Leo is a friend of tradition. Rorate Caeli has already fired up the megaphone. Make our numbers great and known, they said. But pause. Wasn't this same Vatican simultaneously authorizing the LGBTQ pilgrimage to march through the very same doors? Both are permitted. Both are on the same calendar. The real message is not toleration. This is what we got to get. The real message is not toleration of tradition, but a managerial parody, right? It's just managing it right now. The Latin Mass can return so long as the rainbow flag marches in beside it. It's a mockery, if you think about it. It's no longer, get this, it's no longer the lex orandi of the Roman Church, but one minority option in a pluralist bazaar of spiritual lifestyles. I'm going to read that one more time. The traditional Latin Mass is no longer the lex orandi. It's no longer the law of prayer of the Roman Rite, of the Roman Catholic Church, as it has always been. That's not the way they're treating it right now. That's why we should not be rejoicing over it, of what's happening. Burke is praying a Mass, okay. Because it's no longer the lex orandi of the Roman Church. It's just a minority option in a pluralist bazaar of spiritual lifestyles. Trad Inc. wants you to believe that a high Mass proves a thaw. In reality, it proves the revolution has moved past resistance. Tradition is now one exhibit among many in the ecclesial carnival. I think that's a good way to describe it. It's an exhibit. It's a zoo. That's what it is. The Vatican is a zoo. And we want our little cell in there so that people can walk by and, oh, this is them, and then right next to it, James Martin and all that. Well, Burke warms hearts with the Latin chant. Martin warms Leo with inclusion. Leo himself inaugurates his crowning achievement, Borgo Laudato Si, a zero-waste theme park in Castel Gandolfo. Did you know that that was going on? It's insane. Absolutely insane. You got this Laudato Si thing, it's the legacy of Francis. And it's just these gardens, it's art. It's in, I have no words to describe it. And by the way, they just brought the person of the head of the arts is a person that has been doing pornography since the 80s. Proudly, by the way. And the art of this person is loves the lifestyle of nightclubs. And she's very sorrowful that nightclubs are going out of business because that's where people can mingle and be themselves. Even, specifically mentioned, even the LGBTQ nightclubs, because that's where they can mingle and be themselves and come out in public. This person, Leo, just put at the head of the arts, and this was founded in the 1500s by a great Pope, Paul III, I believe. And of course, let's think of the beautiful art of the church. You walk into these churches and they're gorgeous, right? The old ones. That's the real arts. And now you got this person at the head of this thing. And believe me, it's bad. I caught a glimpse of some of the Lights Like Music and has it on there. A bunch of naked people curled up, hanging from trees and stuff. So, I mean, it's bizarre. And it's real. I mean, the history of this person's track record and art pieces are everywhere to be seen. You can't even say the thing here. Remember the peeing on the crucifixes and stuff. It's that kind of thing. Urinating on other people. Right? This is the art that she loves and lives for and has dedicated her life to. She's at the head of the art of the Catholic Church. And it's facts. I mean, you can look and see it just happened. It's a circular greenhouse, this theme park of ecclesiology side. A shrine of ecology. It's the worship of creation. And remember, Leo's intention for September is that you can be one with creation, for unity with creation. Unity with God is what we're after the last time I checked. Unity with creation is Buddhist, or that's a heresy. His intention for September is that we can have union with creation. So, are you in union with the plants and animals in the cosmos? That's creation. Are you in union with that? Are you feeling one with it? This is the intention of the sovereign pontiff. How can you be a pope? I don't understand. So we're supposed to pray for the Pope's intentions, but you can't pray for his intentions. You cannot pray for his intentions because they're manifest. They're public. So if you said, Father Ambrose, my intention is for sodomy. Will you pray for that intention? Well, no, I'm not going to pray for your intention because you just told me what it is. No, I can't, for sure. So if he tells me that his intention is a total deviation from anything, that intention's never been prayed for in the Catholic Church. You cannot pray for it. You cannot pray for that intention. And so I suppose you got to pray for his conversion and salvation, when you're trying to get an indulgence rather than for his intention. So it's a circular greenhouse inspired by Bernini, with solar panels, cows and donkeys baptized into integral ecology. A circular and generative economy, they said, where profits cycle endlessly, trash disappears, ecology becomes a sacrament. Okay. So this is framed as Francis's legacy. So Leo is building Francis's eco-paradise in stone and glass. Very ugly. It is the institutionalization of Laudato Si as the new spirituality of the Vatican. Into this, of rainbow masses, permission slips, eco-villages come a voice from the American clerical blogosphere. Father Clinton Sensat assures us that Leo is doing us a favor by starving our addiction to papal headlines. We shouldn't care if he meets Martin or Burke. We should focus on our local parishes, not Rome. This is the same old don't look at the papacy trick. Pretend Peter is a background actor. Pretend the universal head of the church is meant to be invisible. Pretend that what happens in Rome stays in Rome. But reality will not cooperate. Rome has just permitted rainbow pilgrims to desecrate the holy door. Rome has just canonized ecology as a sacrament. Rome has just put James Martin's 5 points of inclusion. I guess there's 5 points of inclusion. I don't have them memorized. Into the Pope's in tray with encouragement to continue. Quietism is not fidelity, it is denial. And denial does not save souls. Okay, so it ends with this. I think this is a good point here. The week's headlines tell the whole story. One altar hosts Cardinal Burke for the Old Mass, under permission. Another altar welcomes Martin and his rainbow pilgrims under permission. In Castel Gandolfo, Leo builds an altar to ecology. Permission for tradition is not victory. It is containment. So you got to understand here. This is a point. It can take some time, probably too long to explain it. This permission, whatever permission has been granted for tradition, is no victory. It's not on the way to coming back to it. All right, they are full-fledged on the path of the revolution, and they're in hyper speed right now. They're not slowing it down. They're not turning the other way a little bit. They're full-fledged, and they're moving much better, much faster, because Francis, we know that people kind of caught on to him because he didn't have the finesse that Leo does. So permission for tradition is not victory right now, okay? It is containment. They are managing with the problem right now. And they're trying to put it in a zoo. That's the containment. Stick you in a zoo. Right? And what's great about this is everyone that's running over to their zoo cell, they're going to turn on you and say, you guys are schismatic and evil and bad because you're not coming to the zoo with us. The SSPX is running right to it right now, head first. And this is the problem. The Fed had 6 conditions for reconciling with Rome. We do want reconciliation. Here's the thing. They're the ones that need to reconcile, not us. We haven't left the church. They've left Rome. So they have to come back. They are in schism from Rome and from all their predecessors and from all their councils. Here's the key. Lefebvre listed these things. One was, okay, you got to give us our own bishop, so on and so forth. But the biggest one was number 6. I think they would even give them their own bishops. I think they might do that. Number 6 is the big one. This is what SSPX is not going to do. Lefebvre said the only possible way to reconcile with Rome is when the crisis in the church is done. In other words, it means when they are no longer in obstinate heresy, when they themselves are back in union with Rome. That means the crisis is over. then there can be reconciliation. That has not happened, and that's not going to happen, and yet they're going to run over, which means they're going to be contained in the conciliar zoo, in the pantheon of all religions, in the one big inclusive tent, and they'll be on display.
And they have to zip it.
And they have to zip it.
Not seeing.
Right? No, they can't. Exactly. So now, under containment, you cannot complain. You cannot complain. And so they will become their greatest defenders. And you notice that right now. When's the last time you've seen Taylor Marshall say a single negative thing about Leo? Not once since he was elected. The day before, it was all about it. It shows you that something definitely happened. And these people are going to go crazy because they have to know. Permission for sin is promotion. Okay, so permission for tradition is containment. Permission for sin is promotion. So when they permit James Martin, they're promoting that. Okay. And the eco-village is it's a village. The eco-village is the shrine of the new religion that enfolds them both. Okay, it enfolds them both. This form of tradition, right? Just give us our Latin Mass. We'll do anything for it. We'll drink down all the errors of Vatican II, all of them. We won't complain. We will not resist. They'll become a Christian. So this is the new religion is unfolding both now. That's the strategy. And it's working very well. They have the majority of traditionalists contained in this as captives. And so for us, this is not Lafayette. So basically, we become the new SSPX on the outskirts, and despised by everybody. We have to kind of fill that role now. We have to trust that God's providence is still working. On the other note here is for the saint Gregonius. He was a eunuch in Diocletian's court with a few other eunuchs. With Dorotheus, he was the first chamberlain to the Emperor Diocletian. These guys, and there's also one named Peter. And Gregonius, Gregonius and Dorotheus were able to convert all of the eunuchs of Diocletian's court. Can you imagine that? This isn't right when it was the worst, year 304. And at this point, he has everyone on the gridirons. I mean, martyrdoms that are not quick ones. And they're hanging all over the streets, and they're everywhere. It would have looked like hell. But because of the examples of the martyrs, it started to convert the courts and those in the palace, even his wife. Probably had several of them, but at least one or two. They were starting to convert. And both of them one day saw a martyr hideously tortured in the presence of Diocletian, so in the court itself. And this was either Adrian, who we had the other day, or yesterday, and his martyrdom was severe. Or it was Peter. Peter so they've seen his example here. Having refused to sacrifice, was hung up naked in the air and whipped on all parts of his body. After the executioners had torn his flesh in such a manner that the bones started out. Without being able to shake his constancy, they poured salt and vinegar into his wounds, then had a gridiron brought and a fire made on which they broiled him as we do meat, telling him at the same time that he should continue in that condition if he would not obey. But he was resolute to the last, with a cheerful and astonishingly peaceful countenance, and died under the torture. Seeing that example also, it caused Gorgonius and his companions, like several other eunuchs, to say, "Why, O emperor, dost thou punish this man only, by condemning an opinion which we share with him? His belief is our belief. Our will is the same." So could you do that, right? Could you if you witnessed that kind of suffering before a judge that was that cruel, that was today's gospel, right? Who confesses me before men, I will confess. Would we have the courage to know you're going to go through the same thing? And they did go through the same thing, exact same thing. The emperor thereupon ordered them to be bound and scourged till their bodies were perfectly flayed, a mixture of vinegar, salt poured into their wounds. Soon after, he commanded them to be bound again and grilled on bars over hot coals. Finally, after a variety of other tortures, they were hanged and strangled. The martyrs show by example that a true Christian is invincible in virtue and fortitude. A true Christian, a true spirit Christian, is invincible in this regard, right? If we cannot do that, it is because we are not yet true Christians. That's the tough truth to it. It's because the world still has our heart. Right? It's because there's still ruptures in our human heart. Ruptures that need to be mended and healed. We should be invincible in virtue and fortitude, for as St. Gregory Nazianzen says, he looks upon misfortunes and crosses as the seeds of the most heroic virtues. Therefore he exults in all adversity. Torments do not discompose the serenity of his countenance, much less do they change the steadfastness of his heart. Nothing is able to pull him down. Everything yields to the magnanimity and wisdom of this philosopher, or lover of wisdom and truth. If he is stripped of the goods and conveniences of life, he has wings to raise him even to heaven. He flies even to the bosom of God, who abundantly makes him amends for all, and is to him all things. He is in the world with a body as if he were a pure spirit. In the midst of passions and sufferings, he is as invincible as if he were impassible. He lets himself be vanquished in everything except in courage, and where he submits, he triumphs by humility, patience, and constancy, even in torments and in death itself. Do we maintain this character, even under the light trials we meet with? Saint Gorgonius and companions. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.